Hi folks, Florida Man here. This after-action report is about a game I played on the classic diplomacy map as England. I played the game on PlayDiplomacy.com in spring 1901. I began with a plan to work with France against Germany and possibly Russia, so I opened to Norwegian, North Sea, and Yorkshire, which left open the possibility for me to convoy to Belgium, Holland, or Denmark. Russia and France both opened in ways that were friendly to me, as planned. Russia moved south rather than north, while France entered Burgundy and honored the DMZ of English Channel. Germany, on the other hand, made a frankly sort of bizarre set of opening moves, occupying Ruhr, Helgoland Bight, and Prussia. Normally, Germany can guarantee 2 builds, but in this game, the German player had thrown away the ability to do that. After his spring orders, Germany could only guarantee Holland, and having gone to Prussia, he had also provoked Russia. In the southeast, Austria moved to Romania and Tyrolia, which showed the Germans and Austrians probably weren't coordinating. Turkey moved to Armenia and bounced with Russia in the Black Sea, which seemed far from a juggernaut arrangement. As fall 1901 came, I continued to work with France, which here meant that I attempted to convoy into Denmark, bouncing with Germany, while France acquired 3 centers. Russia took Sweden but failed to realize that Germany was serious about moving against them in spring, resulting in Germany taking Warsaw at the same time that Russia gained Budapest and Romania. On the bright side for Russia, Turkey moved Armenia away from them, suggesting the spring disagreement was only temporary for our juggernaut buddies. The big loser in 1901 was Austria. Not only did Austria make terrible 1901 moves, but they also failed to enter retreat orders, which was unfortunate since a retreat to Serbia was an available option, which would have kept them from dropping in centers. In the build phase, therefore, Austria remained at only 2 units, while Turkey got a shiny new fleet, Russia got 2 new armies, Italy got a new army, Germany got a fleet and an army, and France built a fleet and 2 armies. France was very persuasive, arguing that this was the best combination of units with which to fight Germany. I wasn't exactly happy about the builds, but I've learned that arguing with an ally who already has an advantage over you isn't necessarily a good way of keeping the ally loyal. In spring 1902, I moved into Skagerrak and backfilled North Sea. I believe it was because Russia had not responded to my requests for support into Denmark. Strangely, Russia neither moved to attack me nor to retake Warsaw from Germany, but instead supported the new army he'd built in Moscow, holding in place. This was a particular shame since Germany NMR'd here, which means Warsaw could easily have been retaken this year. France moved into English Channel and Mid-Atlantic Ocean as well as Picardy. In the east, Austria wriggled in its grave rather than just peacefully lying down and letting Russia and Turkey finish it off. Unfortunately, with only 1 army and 1 fleet, this was just delaying the inevitable. Turkey took Serbia this season and positioned to take Greece. In fall 1902, Russia and I supported my North Sea unit into Denmark, netting me my first gain since Norway. France moved into North Atlantic Ocean, which made me nervous. You can see I had moved a unit into London because I suspected France might just try to walk into London, so France had set off my paranoia a bit already. With the capture of Denmark, though, I felt much more secure knowing I had a build coming. Also, with the French move to North Atlantic Ocean, there was at least some possibility his fleets would pull down to the Mediterranean or go in the direction of Russia rather than coming after me. Germany again failed to enter orders. In the east, Russia put a unit in position to help retake Warsaw next year and supported himself back into Budapest, reducing Austria to Trieste. Russia also moved a unit down to Sevastopol, either to defend against Turkey or to reassure Turkey that he wouldn't be building a fleet in Sevastopol. Turkey took Greece and held Serbia, which put Turkey in a very strong footing. Italy moved Tyrolia to Trieste unsuccessfully because the support order from Venice was mistakenly entered as an order to support Trieste to hold. So Austria survived another year, due to pure ineptitude. With the build phase, I acquired a fleet in Liverpool to defend against possible betrayal from France. Turkey acquired an army and a fleet for increased flexibility. Russia acquired an army in Moscow for obvious reasons, and Austria chose to keep the army rather than the fleet, which was the most logical and natural choice for them to make, giving them one last chance to screw up their enemies' plans. In spring 1903, France backed down out of North Atlantic Ocean, which basically repaired our relationship. I moved London to Yorkshire, which was to be able to flexibly defend any space that France might attack. Norway moved to North Sea so I could hopefully begin moving on Germany directly. For some reason, France failed to support his unit in Ruhr to hold, so he lost that space, resetting the progress he'd made relative to Germany. On the bright side, a new Germany had joined, so the power was defending itself again, keeping the game interesting. Unfortunately for the new Germany, Russia retook Warsaw this season, reducing Germany to home centers plus Holland. In the east, Italy figured out how to support himself into Trieste, but at the same time, France and Turkey both moved toward Tunis, suggesting Italy might lose some ground this season to someone regardless. Turkey stabbed Russia by taking Romania, which made me a bit nervous. At this point, Turkey would have been my favorite for the eventual solo winner here. Austria used the last gasp of that last army to sneak toward Germany and create a possibility of staying alive in Berlin or Munich. Unfortunately for Austria, Germany retreated Warsaw to Prussia, which would allow Germany to guarantee the security of his homeland from Austria, although not without risking a center falling to me or France. In fall 1903, Germany did exactly that, resulting in Austria dying while France supported me convoying successfully into Holland. Everything that wasn't involved in that attack moved closer to the next attack on Germany, or in France's case, the next attack on Italy. France moved to Piedmont and captured Tunis, which gave him a big advantage in the possible race to Solo. Turkey captured Naples, which seemed like a big gain at the time. But in retrospect, by allowing France to capture Tunis, I think Turkey actually diminished his prospects for Solo with this move. Italy's poor strategic decisions to attack Austria, not leave anything to defend Tunis, and not position to defend home centers, along with his failure to make an alliance with Turkey or France, came home to roost. Russia, meanwhile, made defensive moves that were frankly baffling relative to Turkey and Italy. He made unsupported moves to Trieste, Romania, and Serbia that were almost guaranteed to fail, along with supporting Warsaw to hold instead of supporting Sevastopol to hold, even though Turkey had 2 units next to Sevastopol, while there was only 1 enemy unit near Warsaw. In the build phase, Russia acquired a new army in his only vacant center, St. Petersburg. Turkey built 1 army and 1 fleet again, although the placement made it seem as if he was only planning on fighting France and Italy from now on. France built a fleet in Marseille and an army in Paris, which showed that he was thinking the same way. I built an army preparing for additional convoys, and Italy destroyed his remaining fleet. In spring 1904, France and Turkey both poured their fleets into the Mediterranean with equal numbers, but the apparent momentum on the French side. France's unit in Piedmont also moved to join this front. On the German front, the primary move this season was France going into Ruhr again. In the east, Russia moved all his armies south to make his stand against Turkey, finally taking the stab from Turkey the way I think he should have. In fall 1904, Russia managed to not lose ground to Turkey and succeeded in taking Trieste from Italy. France and Turkey each failed to do anything toward gaining Italian centers, which was not surprising since they were mostly focused on each other. France and I broke through the German defense, with Holland capturing Kiel and Ruhr capturing Munich, which meant France and I would each get a build. In the build phase, France, Russia, and I each got an army. In spring 1905, Russia supported me in capturing Berlin, and France moved units through Munich and Tyrolia toward the front with Italy and Turkey. I now had 3 armies in the Germany region, while France had no armies in his home centers, and only had armies in Belgium and Munich in the neighborhood. Turkey and Russia didn't make any progress against each other. In fall 1905, as you might have predicted, I stabbed France, capturing Munich and Belgium, and moving Liverpool to the Irish Sea. At the same time, France unfortunately managed to capture Venice and Rome, which would allow him to stay constant in number of centers. Russia finally took a center from Turkey, recapturing Romania despite the effectiveness of Turkey's defense up until now. France chose to retreat his armies from Munich and Belgium to Burgundy and Picardy, which I think is probably roughly what I would have done too. In the build phase, I acquired 2 fleets and an army, while Russia acquired an army in Sevastopol. In spring 1906, my navy moved south, taking the key mid-Atlantic Ocean and English Channel spaces. I also convoyed my new army onto the continent through the North Sea. Russia and I bounced in Denmark, as he apparently tried to help France, while France retook Belgium from me and put a fleet in the West Mediterranean. Also in spring 1906, Turkey proposed a draw, including me, France, Turkey, and Russia, which I rejected. I think Turkey could tell things were going downhill for him, and on the other hand, I hadn't yet pushed as far as I might be able to push here. In fall 1906, I retook Belgium and captured Portugal. France and I bounced in Brest, and I occupied Burgundy. To the south, Russia and France continued to make progress against Turkey, capturing Naples and Serbia. In the build phase, France got a fleet in Brest, I got a new army in London, and Russia got a new army in Warsaw. It turned out, from this build and the last season's move, that Russia really didn't care about helping France out against me. In spring 1907, I defended against any possible Russian stab with a self-bounce in Kiel by my units in Denmark and Berlin. Against France, I moved Portugal to Spain, which to my surprise did not bounce, and I put units in Picardy and Gascony, penetrating the French homeland and surrounding Paris on all sides. To the south, France completely abandoned the war with Turkey to shift everything toward me. On the other hand, Russia was still moving his whole massive horde to crush Turkey, positioning to capture Greece and possibly Bulgaria. Fall 1907, I capture mid-Atlantic Ocean again, take Brest, and bounce with Russia's attempt to move to Kiel. In the south, to my surprise, Russia lost Sevastopol to Turkey and failed to take Greece. France's units moved to defend against a possible Turkish shot at Naples or Tunis, which resulted in them getting further away from me at the worst possible moment. With the build phase, I acquired a fleet and an army, while Turkey got a new army, indicating his intent to continue focusing on the war with Russia. In spring 1908, I moved to take Marseille before France could give it the reinforcements that I knew were coming. Sure enough, France moved into Piedmont and Gulf of Lion at the same time. I also captured West Mediterranean this season, taking my first foothold in the southern seas. In the south, Russia recaptured Sevastopol. Russia also tried to walk into French-controlled Venice. In fall 1908, I took Paris, the last free French home center. I slipped a fleet into North Africa and my West Med fleet into Tyrrhenian Sea. At the same time, I walked into Russian-controlled Sweden, and Russia supported himself into French-controlled Venice. Turkey and Russia continued to pointlessly focus on each other, despite the fact that I was now inches from solo. In the build phase, I acquired 2 new fleets and an army that I didn't really need, while Russia got a fleet in the north coast of St. Petersburg to finally fight me there. In spring 1909, France gave up and stopped entering orders, allowing me to freely walk into both Naples and Tunis. An anticlimactic way to win, but I think at this point it was inevitable anyway, since I probably would have captured St. Petersburg pretty soon in any case, and since in the east, Turkey and Russia are still fighting each other. At this point, not having expected that attack to land, I was positioning to attack everywhere I could reach, moving into Bohemia, Silesia, Norway, Norwegian Sea, and Baltic Sea. Russia captured Rome at the same time, which was pretty funny, since he really should have been helping France against me, not stealing French dots. While Russia did that, Turkey took Serbia from him. Russia had more or less abandoned fighting Turkey this season in order to finally move some units to defend against me. As we reached fall 1909, everyone could see the writing on the wall, so there were messages in the public press between Russia and Turkey arguing over who deserved the blame for the result of this defeat, if anyone. In my opinion, they both deserved the blame. I was well into the invasion of France, and they didn't manage to make peace and come after me years before I got within true striking range of the Solo. France was also somewhat at fault for a weak defense that suffered as a result of the effort to continue fighting Turkey in the south. But if I had to say someone was most at fault, it was definitely Russia, who should have seen the writing on the wall years ago. As fall orders processed, I walked into Vienna and simply held on to the other centers I had taken, while Russia and France both failed to enter orders, and Turkey made its last moves toward trying to stop me, which were unsuccessful, of course. The final position looked like this. France was eliminated in the final season, and I achieved a solo victory, which always feels very good. Surprisingly enough, I had won without capturing St. Petersburg at all, although it would have fallen to me if the game continued for only a little while longer. It was a fun game for me, though I'm not sure how the others involved felt. In any case, I hope you, the audience, enjoyed it. If you liked it, consider showing it with your likes, comments, subscribes, and maybe support on Patreon, like half of the people whose names are now on screen. We also appreciate comments, which boost the videos in the algorithm and make it more likely that fellow diplomacy fans will discover Florida Man Diplomacy. Until next time, Florida Man out.